Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Proper Football Podcast. It's Thursday night again, and that can mean only one thing. We're live, of course. I'm joined this evening by Chairman of Leicester St Andrews and, of course, friend of the show, Brett Wells. Brett, good evening to you, buddy. How are you?
Yeah, evening, Tom. All good, thanks, mate. Thanks for having me back on.
Good. No worries. Thank you very much for joining me, mate. Have you had a good week, my friend? You've just come back from a Beano to Ibiza with the lads, I understand.
Yeah. Good weekend in Ibiza last. Well, not the weekend just gone, the weekend before. But yeah, always good over there, mate. 34 of us.
Absolutely, mate. I can only imagine what went on. Probably not suitable for a live podcast, mate. But look, I'm glad you've recovered from your trip, buddy. And you can join us this evening, mate. We've got some cracking stuff to get stuck into. We're going to touch obviously on a bit about obviously what you're doing at the minute in the summer, your preparation for next season, of course. And we've got some really good stuff to get stuck into this evening. We're going to be talking about the Arsenal women. Their triumph in the UEFA Women's Champions League with a 1-0 victory over Barcelona. Absolutely fantastic game of football that was, and what an achievement for them. We're also going to be talking about Renee Slagers and her impact since coming in. Firstly, as interim head coach, and then obviously she took the role permanently. We're going to be looking at all things playoff, whether that be across the EFL, into non-league. We're going to look at what's been going on in the combined counties with Jersey Bulls and that debacle. And then a bit of a bonus story. We're going to finish up talking about Dumbarton, Scottish club, and a bit of a journey that they've been on from administration. They've now been saved, and we're going to look at their journey in a bit more detail. But I just wanted to start off just a bit of a tribute. Obviously, we all know Liverpool won the Premier League this season, and they had a huge title parade over the weekend, which we understand the numbers lining the streets of Liverpool and the surrounding areas was around sort of the 500,000 mark. And something, unfortunately, that was supposed to be a joyous occasion, a celebration, was marred, unfortunately, by an incident, again, that is obviously widespread, and I'm sure everybody tuning in will be aware of that. And we understand, obviously, that a number of people were injured and taken to hospital, some with serious injuries. And I just wanted to place on record from everybody at Proper Football that we wish everybody affected the very, very best. And our best wishes and prayers go out to everybody involved. We're just going to display a statement from the club and from what I sort of read on socials and what I hear from people close to the club and such. The club have responded absolutely fantastically and are doing everything that they can to support those that are affected. Brett, I'm sure you were across that one as well, mate. Have you got anything just to add on that at all?
Yeah, it's tragic, mate, isn't it, really? You don't expect people. I know quite a few people from Leicester that went, to be fair. And you just don't expect something like to happen, especially at the time. So thoughts go out to all the victims and that were part of it. And all Liverpool fans, really, because it just shows now in this country, something like that, this joyous, and you still get these mad people that want to disrupt it and cause mayhem.
Yeah, naturally. And whilst the full details of which the reasons and what actually happened are obviously still out there for speculation, it just feels more and more like sometimes that we can't have any form of large-scale event without having to discuss something like this on the back of it, whether it be something from, you know, a minor scuffle between a couple of individuals all the way through to something of this magnitude. It just feels more and more like joyous occasions are just being overshadowed by tragedies such as this. And yeah, and it just takes the gloss off of it for fans, doesn't it? And but yeah, as I say, placed on record, our thoughts and prayers are with everybody affected. But look, we'll move away from that and obviously look into something that is a much brighter subject. Excuse me. Champions League final between Arsenal and Barcelona, the Women's Champions League final rather, took place over the weekend, which saw Arsenal run out 1-0 winners. Now, they weren't fancied at all at the start of the season. So for them to get through to the final, and even in the final as well, I think I saw odds as ridiculous as Barcelona were 1-5 on to win that. Arsenal complete underdogs in that one, and what an achievement that is, Brett. Eh?
Yeah, massive. Well, Barcelona, I think they dominated for years, haven't they? They're not very often that an English club. Was it the first time an English club's won it, Tom?
It's the second time an English club has won it. So Arsenal won it originally in 2007, and it's the second time that they've won it. The only English club to do it. The WSL and such like these days is dominated by Chelsea. They got knocked out by Barcelona in the semi-final. Arsenal have then gone to the final after beating another powerhouse in Lyon. And they've managed to go there, and they did it. They trust me. I watched the game. They did a proper number on Barcelona.
No, good, fair. But it's about time we did on the Spanish. They normally do it on us, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. But just to pop up there, Arsenal Women Champions League winners, and the celebrations for that one. They had an open top bus parade, obviously as they deserve, and the numbers that they were getting there shows just how much the women's game is growing. But we touched on a second ago there, obviously, that Arsenal did win it in 2007. I'm going to pop up an image here now that's going to just display just how much the women's game has grown. Just have a little look at this. Obviously, top picture is obviously the squad prior to the 2007 final. And then obviously the bottom picture is Arsenal celebrating the win with a trophy. I think you can see just from that picture, that top one, that was actually played at Boreham Woods ground, which Arsenal used as a home ground for many years. And then this time around, it was held at the Estadio José Alvalade in Portugal. Hopefully I pronounced that correct. With an attendance of 50,827. So huge attendance, first and foremost, which is pretty much a sellout. But just the contrast between the two pictures, you can see there, it's completely worlds apart, the game now versus what it was then, isn't it?
Yeah, madness, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it's just great to see the growth, to be fair. And we touched on the parade. Just have a little look at this. I'm just going to pop this video up, some footage taken of it. But just look at that, fantastic numbers there, and a real sort of step forward for the women's game, that one. Anybody watching along in the comments, if you were there and you've got a personal story to share of the day, then just drop it into the comments. Or if you're an avid women's football follower and want to share something on that, then by all means do. But I want to have a look as well at the impact, because obviously the manager there, Renee Slagers, she came in sort of mid-season, part way through the season. The original manager, Jonas Eidvall, it didn't work under him at the start of this season, unfortunately. I think he had 3 seasons in charge there. He sort of fell away, and results at the start of the season weren't where they needed to be. Renee was brought in October. She was originally his assistant. She stepped into the interim role. And I think that she went on an 11-game unbeaten run. 31 goals scored, only 5 conceded. And since she took over as a whole, her win percentage is 75.76%. Just how important, I know obviously you're not an avid follower of the women's game, Brett, obviously, but just how important a managerial change, how can that sort of galvanise a club and really push them forward?
It's mad, isn't it? Once you go on a run, it's hard to sort of build up momentum, don't you? Keep going. But to go for that percentage, 75% at any level of football, mate, some going. Especially if she's come in mid-season and sort of turned it around like that, then yeah, massive. The more you win, you keep on going, and then it becomes harder to lose, don't it? Even when you go behind, you find that team spirit and that galvanised spirit where you come back and win games. You see it all throughout football, don't you? When teams go on a run,
that's it.
You get out to lose, don't you?
Yeah, it's not a bad habit to be in, really, is it? Winning, it's a pretty good habit. But like you say, at any level of football, to be able to come in, whether that be women's, top flight, whatever tier you look at, to be able to sort of, because it was with the same squad, it's same
Yeah.
squad of players. That I think they made 1 or 2 additions in January when she was made permanent manager. But outside of that, it's absolutely the same squad. Obviously, she brought in Chloe Kelly in January, which is a huge one. She's been a revelation since coming in. She came off the back of some poor treatment, from what we understand, at Manchester City. Well, I'm really pleased for her, especially because this is a bit of a two fingers up moment for her to come in and say, you know what, she's back in the England squad now as well in preparation for the Euros that are taking place in the summer. So a massive, massive shout out to her, man, for her to come in and kick on like she has. She had a point to prove, and she's gone out and proved it. But like I say, at any level of football, to be able to come in, working with the same squad of players, to get your message across, you'll know, Brett, obviously, as a chairman, just how hard is it to get your message across to the same set of players when it wasn't working under the old regime.
Yeah, it's mad. But then sometimes, as a chairman, from the chairman's point of view, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. You know, with the manager, the old manager, for instance, and then when a new person comes in, other players that have been frozen out or weren't quite sure on the old gaffer have a change of heart, don't they? Change of determination, whatever. And you see players that weren't quite doing it transform. People get a new lease of life, don't they?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. But massive, massive credit goes out to Renee Slagers and Arsenal for their win, because that is a phenomenal achievement. Only British club to do it as well, 2007 and obviously this year. So yeah, really fantastic. Look, we'll move away from that, Brett. Obviously, we've not got you on the show just to talk about other people, mate. I want to talk about yourself. I want to talk about Leicester St Andrews. Obviously, you know from my visit previously, and anybody that read that article and has followed the channel after that will know how highly I think of the club. You've been busy, mate, haven't you? You've been securing, because obviously it was heartbreak, unfortunately, in the playoffs for you guys. You've now got to reset and go again. You're staying in the same league next season.
Yeah.
You've been really, really busy. You've kept a real good core of the squad moving into next season, haven't you?
Yeah, fingers crossed. Obviously, we had the disappointment of last year, the playoff, lost on penalties in the playoff final, and it was, not going to lie, it was like heartbreaking. The whole club as a whole was hurt. Weren't just me and the manager and the players, even like the boss. Everyone would really come together collectively. I might sound a bit cheesy or whatever, but it's a fact. And basically, the hurt went straight through us all. So for that week after, it was horrible. Manager was talking about quitting. Do you know what I mean? It's all that emotion that I can't do that again. Do you know what I mean? But then as time goes on, it becomes a healer. And the players were hurting as well. So they were all sort of like, you know what, we feel like we've underachieved. We want to go again next year, put it right, and get promoted without the playoffs. Ideally, that's the plan. So yeah, we've had most of them that are committed for the coming season. They've all said they want to stay and they want to do what we just said. So yeah, all good now. We're looking positive for next season. A couple of new additions, hopefully, which I'm pretty sure will come. And then we'll kick on. We're looking to go and be title challengers next year, not playoffs. We're looking to win it.
Absolutely, and that obviously gives you a massive advantage going into next season as well, because you kept the core of players. You're already a team, as obviously we discussed prior to going live. You're already a team. You've not got to dip into the market too much, whereas you're going to have teams around you that naturally everybody loses players. You've got a good player, somebody a step higher comes in. You know, it happens. We have to accept that in football, right? But how much of an advantage do you think you're going to have going into next season by retaining that core versus people that are having to really dip into that market to replace?
Yeah, it's massive. It's massive because we had it last year and the season before that, and probably the season before that, where we had new manager come in or whatever, and then it's almost like a whole rebuild again. And then all through pre-season, everyone's playing the game. All the players are playing the game, talking to every other club, playing every club off everyone. It's the worst time of the year. I hate this next month. It's vile.
I can imagine.
So the fact that we've managed to sort of keep the same core, and we were strong anyway, don't get me wrong, towards the end of the season we were strong. I think we lost something like 2 games in September. I think it was something stupid. Out of like 29 games, we lost 2. And obviously we lost on penalties in the playoff final. So our form was quite good anyway. But now with a full pre-season and everyone together as a group, it's a massive advantage in my eyes. I've been there and done it the other way, and it's vile. And in our league already, there's quite a lot of managerial movements. Managers are moving from club to club, so they're going to be rebuilding and restarting. It's hard. It is hard, but fingers crossed. We've got the same group. I think we've got an advantage, defo.
Yeah, I certainly think so. You know, I'm a firm believer in continuity, certainly at that level of football. Well, providing those that continue are the ones that you want to continue as such. There's always going to be players that clubs want to move on, and there's always going to be change, which as I said, we have to accept and we have to embrace. But what do you think it is about Leicester St Andrews that wants to keep? Because obviously you've got some good players. You know, I've seen
Yeah.
that firsthand, and they could. There's a number there that could go on to play a step higher. But what do you think it is about Leicester St Andrews that wants to keep, especially those better players, remaining at the club?
We've built the atmosphere on and off the pitch. It sounds a bit cheesy again saying a family atmosphere, but it is. The players are like a family. We have a bus for every away game, which has helped us. So we're all together as a group. I found that as a massive thing last season, which built us our team spirit. Because at our level, we used to be before, everyone goes in cars and you play your away game and everyone just goes home. You don't really bond and mix. And if you have got players coming from other places, like, I don't know, wherever, Coventry, wherever, that don't actually live in Leicester, they never get a chance to bond. So they just play and go. But the fact we was on the bus and we made everyone go on the bus, we had a crack on the bus on the way back, a few beers, singing and all the rest of it. And you build that team spirit, and that's invaluable. It's massive. You can chuck all the money at your world at any players you want in a team, but you can't buy team spirit. You have to sort of build and work on it. And we've got that now. We all went, 34 of us went Ibiza. I think there was 16 or 17 from the first team squad that were there. So that just shows the core. And that's how them weekends where you're together and you bond, that gives you the team. And we come back, we ask the players about committing, and no hesitation. All the big players are straight in. Yeah, we're there next season. We're there next season. And then the rest just follow. And there's, like you said, there's several that could go on and play at higher clubs, and they've all had offers to, but they've chose to stay because they love about what we're doing and what we've built. It's not just about on the pitch, off it as well. Do you know what I mean? It's infectious.
Yeah, no, and like I say, I'm not going to sort of harp on about how much I love the place because I've put it out there already. But when I was sort of coming in, you felt that straight away as soon as from the first engagement with yourself, and then introducing me to the guys. So I can absolutely see why people want to stay there. For me, it is definitely a club that's sort of moving forward, and I put you in with a fantastic chance of going up automatically next season. But it's not just all that you do at the club, is it? Because there's obviously the social side of the club as well. You've got the clubhouse there, and you've got the outdoor sort of gazebo area. Yeah. You boys have been you've been having a couple of raves and all sorts going on down there, ain't you?
Yeah, we do. I've been doing. It's one of them. When the pre-season finishes, football season finished. Ours was quite late because of the playoffs on May the 3rd. And then what happens then to when the season starts? Nothing. So I was pretty conscious about non-football income, should I say. So yeah, we had an outdoor rave, DJ Slipmat come up, a few big names, outdoor rave, and then we've got an Amy Winehouse on tomorrow. Next week a reggae, we've got a Paul Bootleg Weller tribute. Got every week there's something going on now, just to keep it ticking. Yeah, do you know what I mean? It's what it's about, and it keeps your community vibe going, and people still coming through the doors and spending money. Otherwise, you have 2 months where you go from literally income to nothing, and that 2 months your bills don't stop. You know what I mean? Our electric bill, 1,700 quid a month, don't stop. Where's that coming from if you've got no money coming through the till?
But this is it, you see. This is the sort of thing that that you guys have to go out and do, and it's not something that you see obviously higher up in the football pyramid. So the tactics that you have to deploy further down the pyramid, such as obviously with yourself, you have to be a lot more savvy. You have to think a lot more outside of the box. And whilst you say it's non-football related income, it's also non-football related engagement. Because 3 o'clock kickoff in a game of football is all well and good, but that's not going to draw, because a lot of the people there, I think, they have a football interest. I think you have to. However, I think a lot of people, it's an outlet, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
the way we've been doing, not a lot of them. I'd say 90% don't come to football games. Do you know what I mean? They're outside, so it's good. But you might get 10 of them that do start coming to football matches. Oh, I didn't realise this place was here. Like I said, we had DJ Slipmat on for one of them. Some people will know who he is, some people won't. He's a big old school rave DJ. But if you're into that genre of music, he's massive. People will message me saying, is it the real Slipmat or is it a tribute? Well, no, it's the real one. So people come down and that gets them through the door. They're like, I might start coming down here regular. And even people like trying to take selfies with me, mate, at that rave. Like I was like fucking Leicester's Wayne Lineker. It's amazing what you've done down here putting this on.
Yeah, quality, mate. Quality. Well, listen, You deserve the plaudits, in my opinion, mate. But as I say, that's what we're going to refer to you as now. Friend of the show,
That's why the
Leicester's Wayne Lineker.
Wayne Lineker, to be
You'll
fair.
have to rename the ground Ocean Beach or something.
Yeah, that's it. I put enough money there, mate, last few years. So.
The Ocean Beach Stadium.
That's it.
But listen, everybody sort of thinks there's, us mere mortals, us mere fans, if you like, we're going to be sort of without football for a period of time. Well, depending on your interest, you've got the women's Euros, of course, but your non-league football, your league football isn't going to be there. Not the case for the life of a non-league chairman. This is a busy period of time that we're coming into for you guys.
Yeah.
What does this period, because I know you're starting pre-season really, really early, but what does this period look like for a non-league chairman?
It's non-stop, mate, to be fair. And if I'm honest, it's more hassle than good. Every day, someone might be chasing your players. So your players staying or they're not staying, unless they're contracted. A couple of ours will be, but the others aren't. So it's just more until you get to that day when they're signed properly and they're all together. It's like silly season, isn't it? It's non-stop. It is non-stop. I mean, we've had literally since our season starts, we've had to extend the pitch and make the dugouts bigger, due to the ground grading. So
yeah,
we played this. We had 2 cup finals on the 11th of May on there. On the 12th of May, the fence came down, the pitch got moved back. That's just been put back up. It's now got to be returfed and seeded and all the rest. Dugouts got knocked down. They're being rebuilt, started again on Wednesday. So there's loads of groundwork still going on to be done for that. So it's just non-stop, mate.
You've not gone up. Obviously, you're staying in the same league. So what? They've just made a change to the regulations or something?
Yeah, because basically they came around every club within the pyramid this season had to have the ground graded to meet to a certain level. And ours was, you have to be a minimum length of 100 meters. And ours measured 99.4, so it was 60 centimeters short. So we were told we have to make the pitch bigger. Otherwise, we don't conform to the ground grading requirements at step 6.
No, because I'm aware, obviously, that these things are checked regularly, and I'm semi-aware of the whys and wherefores and the regulations and what they are. But what I don't understand is how it can be one thing 1 minute and then, actually,
I know
you played there last season at that level, no issues, right?
We've even been in step 5 before, and the pitch has been the same. So it's just someone, I don't know what it is, mate. And there's some of the rules that happened. I think, is it that OJ and Black Country? They come into our league this year. They finished 8th last season in the mid MFL Prem, but something to do with their ground. They've been relegated.
What?
You know what I mean? So it's madness. I don't know what's going on with it, to be honest. We basically got given. We was told, they came out to us the end of January, and all works had to be done by the 31st of March. But obviously, we couldn't extend the pitch during the season or knock the dugouts down. So we had to apply.
Well, no, of course not.
We had to apply for an extension, and we now got till the 31st of July to get that work done. But it'll be done in the next 2-3 weeks.
And what kind of notice are you getting on that?
Well, they came to us end of January, and that had to be done by the 31st of March. But obviously, ours were only minor, really. But then this goes for anything, even like some clubs haven't got a safe walkway from the changing rooms to the pitch, or you haven't got a tannoy system, or you haven't got doorbells in your change room, you haven't got a fire escape sign on your exit, and all that sort of stuff. So some clubs have had a lot, so they've probably been extended as well. But so it'll be interesting what happens if it isn't done by the 31st of July for them clubs.
Yeah, that's a mind boggler. That's a mind boggler, to be fair. It really is.
I think someone said Black Country haven't got their own ground. That's why they've been relegated. But well, if that's the case, then how are they at our level if they haven't got a ground?
But there's loads of people that ground share at all levels of football.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a grey area, mate, at the minute. So it'll be interesting. But there was a threat there. If you don't meet the standards, you get relegated.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm aware that happens, but to hear like a real life example explained in the way that in the way that you've explained it, somebody
we were quite lucky. We only had those 2 things, but I know there's other clubs that would have had a long list. It's all I'm saying, and it's all I'm turning around saying, "Oh yeah, but you can get a grant for it." But yeah, not in February, mate. If you telling me the end of January and then you've got February, a grant takes 6 to 8 weeks. How are you supposed to get the work done in that time?
Impossible.
So, yeah, so some clubs have been unreal for.
Wow, very, very strange. Okay, so just let me try and get my head around this again. So you receive the communication. These are the regulations. This is what you need to do to bring your ground up to scratch. Blah blah blah.
by the 31st
Do
of
they,
March.
do they explain? Do they explain why?
There's a minimum standard effectively.
But why? Why is that? Why is that standard? Because it was this 1 minute ago, and now all of a sudden the standard's been raised.
No,
Why?
there's no explanation. Well, not that I'm aware of. You're just told this is what it needs to be. The bloke come and measured our pitch. Yeah, it's 99.4. It needs to be 100. And yeah, because you have to have a certain run on the pitch ground. I'm like, well, it's always been this long, mate. I'm not being funny. I've been to teams in our league that, like last season now, and they weren't as long as ours.
Mm.
So I'm like,
well, they'll have more work to do then, surely.
And they're not extending their pitch. So I'm like, what's the crack here? So it is what it is, mate. So no, it's nuts. It is nuts.
There's got to be something. Well, there's obviously more to that, of course, but yeah, I'd be interested. I'd be interested to understand.
I mean, you've obviously been to our ground and saw our pitch. It doesn't look short, does it? As a length.
Not to me. I didn't measure it myself personally, obviously.
Just by looking, I've been to the grounds this year. I'm not going to name clubs, but I don't want to.
No, of course.
If it's being
they'll be getting a letter and they'll be watching the proper football.
Yeah, we're coming out
fucking boycotted.
But yeah, there's definitely clubs that are not as long as ours. I know that just by looking, you can tell.
Weird.
But it's going to be done now, so it will give us up to 102 meters. So we've got a bit of leeway.
Okay. So yeah. So you're obviously looking. Personally, I think you should absolutely be looking a step ahead here. Obviously, you've got to let next season take care of itself, but you're in with a massive shout, obviously, to go up automatically next season. So, but yeah, okay. Well, interesting insight there, mate. Unfortunately, no sort of official explanation from the governing bodies, as we so often
see who puts the guidelines down, where these 100 meters has come from. But
yeah, if anybody knows that's watching along, by all means, enlighten us, because I think I'm probably as interested as you are, Brett. To be fair, mate. But look, we're gonna jump into the comments. Regular follower of the show, Nick Paul. Good evening to you, buddy. All right, lads. All right, Nick. Nice to have you along, mate. Your boys are going to be playing the division lower next season, aren't they? Unfortunately, pal. I think we've probably already had this conversation, but well, don't mind reminding you, because you stuffed us 3-0 towards the back end of the season, but it meant nothing. Ha! Good. Right, so I've ribbed Nick now. We'll move on to the next subject. We'll jump into the playoffs. Obviously, Championship, League One and League Two all coming to a conclusion. We now know who's going to be promoted, obviously, from each of those leagues. And I'll pop up the results there for us to see. Sunderland back in the Premier League. I'm really, really pleased for them in a way, because they've had to go. They've been through the ringer a bit, haven't they? Dropping down into League One, obviously at one point. So for them to sort of bounce back and go back up, they're a huge club. And if we just have a look there between the two, the attendance there, 82,718 for the second. That's the second tier, obviously, of English football. You don't get that anywhere else, man. Honestly, not in any other sport, not in any other football pyramid across the world. That is absolutely phenomenal. What are your thoughts on that, Brett? Happy to see Sunderland back in the top flight?
Yeah, it's good for football. They're a big club, aren't they, to be fair? I'm not a massive fan of Sunderland, to be honest, but it's good. They're a big club. They deserve to be up there, don't they, to be honest? The fan base they've got alone. And obviously Newcastle are doing well. So, yeah, I'm glad they're up there, to be honest.
Yeah, no, I am, to be fair. And I'm glad you mentioned Newcastle, because that's like the restoration of a fierce and historic derby, isn't it? The more of them that we can have at the top level of football, where you got, proper fans, having it out with each other, sort of in the stands, the banter after the games on socials and stuff. The Premier League's missing some really key rivalries. So to see that one sort of reignited and back at the top level is a real win for football, in my opinion. And you look at the size of Sunderland as well. Even when they were down in League One, they were getting sort of attendances into the 20-odd thousands, weren't they? They're a massive club, too big of a club to be outside of the Premier League for me. So really, really pleased to see them back dining at the top table. Moving into League One that I'm a bit disappointed about this, really. I was rooting for Orient. I'd love to have seen them a step higher. A team that have sort of grown organically, because they started out the season quite poorly. They were down towards the bottom end of the table with us. They changed manager. Obviously, that completely galvanised them. And they really went on a phenomenal run for sort of the last, well, I would say probably 3/4 of the season. They've had an absolute blinder. It's a huge achievement for them to make the playoff final. And again, you're looking at that third tier of football, 76,193 people there in attendance for that third tier. of football. That is just phenomenal. But what do you think about that, Brett? I'd have rather had Orient there, mate. What about you?
Yeah, I think I would have, to be fair. I'm not keen on the Charlton owners over the last years. I mean, they've been, what's his name that was running it before? I can't think of his name now.
Well, it seems like 1 minute they've got money, the next
Yeah,
minute they're
that's it.
dropping off, they're overspending, they're overcommitting,
I
they're bringing
was
in big
on
names, and then
Talksport a
next thing you
couple of
know, they're
years
back
ago.
in League One.
Yeah, I was on Talksport a couple of years ago. I thought he had nothing, pleading poverty, and then all of a sudden, like you say, yeah. So I prefer Orient's a much more stable club in my eyes. Charlton have been up and down for the last few years, haven't they?
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I always say this especially when we talk about like owners coming in and splashing the cash, and I think people look on enviously, firstly, but secondly, and more importantly, we can't take anything away from the fans there because
No,
they don't make financial decisions. They don't go out and they've been through the ringer with this club, obviously, with it dropping off and poor decisions behind the scenes that we're led to believe. But somebody comes in, saves your club, galvanizes it, and pushes it back up the pyramid. You can't take anything away from the fans there.
no, they're the ones who get hurt the most, aren't they? The fans. So it's not the
Mhm.
Charlton fans; it's more just the club. If I'm honest, I don't know if that guy's still in ownership now. I lost track of it, to be honest, but a couple of years back. But yeah, it's the fans that always get hit, don't it? And it's hard. They're the ones that are there week in, week out, put the dough in.
Mm-mm.
No one gives a shit about them, to be fair. We're going for it now.
Yeah.
Leicester will be like Charlton in a couple of years, I think, the way we're going. So,
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying, but and the problem that I've got with that as well is stretching, and I'll be interested to see what people think in the comments about this as well. Firstly, who you would have rather had in the higher division. Secondly, why that is, and thirdly, what it means, what it is to be a fan and look at a club like that that's yo-yoing in the poor decision, and just give us a fan's perspective what that does. If there's any Charlton fans watching, then by all means, jump in the comments, man. But what we're also going to look at as well, we'll look at League Two now because obviously we've got AFC Wimbledon there. They beat Walsall 1-0. That's I'm buzzing with that. Absolutely pleased with that. Lovely to see Phoenix Club, AFC Wimbledon. Obviously that story was widespread in the early 2000s. What happened there? So to see them back in League One, I think that's the highest they've been obviously since. They've been in League One before, but it's the highest that they've ever reached since coming back as a Phoenix Club. So to see them back in League One, that would be a nice away day trip for me next season as well. So I'll be looking forward to that. But Walsall, what on earth happened? They were 14 points clear in January,
madness, isn't it?
14 points clear. And I'm just sitting here scratching my head like, how on earth did they manage to not get promoted? They won 5 out of 24 games since January. I expected them just to get blown away in the playoff semis, to be fair. I didn't expect them to make the final. But just try and give me an insight, Brett. How on earth does that happen? That kind of drop off. They just fell off the edge of a cliff.
It's mad, isn't it? Well, it's like you was talking about the Arsenal women's team earlier. That had one effect, new manager coming in. It's obviously something's gone off. It's got to have done. Something's gone off behind the scenes or whatever, and it's turned them, isn't it? To have a drop off like that, it's mad. To be that
Absolutely
far
crazy.
drop off. So I'll suspect something behind the scenes, maybe. I don't know, but it's not. There's no words for it, is there? How can you be so good in the first half of the season and then so bad in the second half?
Key changes behind the scenes, I would say, is probably quite a good educated guess, if you like. And whilst we're not privy to exactly what goes on, it screams upset behind the scenes, doesn't it? Unfortunately.
Yeah.
And had they have gone up that level and gone into League One, would they have been able to resolve those issues? Obviously, we'll never know. Will they go again next season and be pushing, or are they going to be sort of towards the bottom end of the league? Because getting close, a lot of those players, and this is why as well, I feel like it's so impressive that you've done what you've done in retaining your core. Because a lot of those players, they got that taste of the next level. They were so close, and a lot of them will believe, I'm good enough to be there. So you'll see teams go close, and then next year they won't go again.
Yeah.
So you'll be able to give us an insight on this. Just how important is it to get into those players and say, yeah, look, we were close. How hard is it just to convince them to sort of stay on and go again?
It is hard, down to their character, isn't it? And you tend to find it's easier with the older players that are more experienced because they've been through it and done it. It's the younger players that are the ones. With one thing I found, and younger players nowadays coming through, they all want it now. So they don't want to work for stuff. They want it now. Like 17, I should be playing in the first team. Blah blah blah. You need to work. Like years ago, you had to work for it. Nowadays, they don't.
Yeah.
They get everything in life. They expect it all straight away, but life don't work that way, does it? So it's the young ones you struggle with a drive and whatever, and they all think they're great and trying to get them to go again. But yeah, it's hard. It is hard. There's no key answer to it. You just got to try and regroup and get the mindset right as early as you can.
Yeah, no, that's a fair shout. But what do you think? Because I've had this, not the first time that somebody said that to me, and without sort of having a pop at people of a certain age, you know, managers, owners, whoever I sort of speak to, you know, the challenges of managing and running a football club in the modern game, of course, are completely different. Do you think that the challenges that you find with the younger players, do you think that's a generational thing? Do you think, is it because they've got everything at their fingertips and they just want it all now? Well, what do you think the reasoning behind it is?
I think it's generational, mate, if I'm honest. And it goes all the way through school, doesn't it? Everything from school. Everyone just gets given what they want. They don't get taught to lose until they're 18, until they hit the real world nowadays, are they? More in males than in females, I think. For example, my daughter dances, or she used to dance. She's 16 now, nearly 17. She's danced since she was 3 years old. I've got 4 kids, 2 older lads and 1 younger lad. But in the dancing world, she used to go to competitions, and it's brutal. You don't get through. You're not through to the next round. Bang, you're out. None of this. Oh, we're all winners. No, you're winners and losers. Because they're learning from young age. They're more. She's the hardest working and the most grown up out of all of them. So it's definitely down to sort of the way that we're treated now. And you know what football's like early doors now until whatever age. You can't win and you can't lose, and we don't publish results, and we all have the same. It don't work that way in life, does it? So the earlier you learn that lesson, and it's not just a football lesson, but it's life skill that you get. And it all comes together, mate. I think in that sense, there's a lot of footballers now that are more technical and talented, I would say, than there was 25 years ago because they're playing.
They haven't got that. They haven't got that steel. I don't find the younger players now.
They haven't got that heart and that fighting. You don't get that anymore. Where's your next like? You go back to years and you look at the likes of Maradona, for example, and even Messi or whatever, come from the slums, didn't have anything, so they had that fight. You never get that an English player like that anymore, would you? Where they're coming from, they're giving everything.
I think you can replicate that type of player. You can't replicate mindset. Mindset is completely individual. That's down to you to go out and get it. But I think you will replicate the technical abilities because there's so much more out there now in terms of coaching and technology. And they get into play. The game's played differently now than what it was even 10 years ago, for example. Everybody thinks they wants to manage like Pep Guardiola and play out from the back on a bobbly pitch with a 6.5 foot centre back that he can't play at his feet. He's better get the ball forward. He'll beat you in the air, but he can't play with the ball at his feet. So the game's played differently first and foremost. But I think more importantly is like you touched on mindset. Those players now, the older experienced players. I think we're at the back end of that player that has that mindset. I think this generation, the players that are getting into their 30s now, I think this is the last. They are the last of a dying breed, if you like. Somebody that will pull a young lad aside that's got a bit of an attitude on him, not happy that he's not starting. Those players that will pull them aside and say, listen, pull yourself together. You'll get your opportunity. Work hard. This is how you do it. But soon we're going to have people in their 30s with the mindset of what a 17-year-old has got now.
Yeah.
So that part of the game for me is dying. When you look at a league club, for example, Northampton Town. I know that Northampton Town and a lot of league clubs will send their young players 16, 17, 18 to non-league. If I'm at Northampton Town and I'm sending youth players out, I want them to go to non-league and get kicked. I want a young little winger to go and get kicked. I want a young striker to get kicked because it shows them what men's football is about. It builds steel and it lets them know that the world that they're stepping into. But the game is changing. The game is really, really changing now, and that is dying out. I don't know what you think about that.
No, definitely. It is. You can't replicate that. And a lot of it's bred from, it goes back to winning and losing when you was a kid. You're losing a game, you didn't want to lose, and you would drive and fight and work hard to win it back. It ain't there anymore. My youngest is 8 years old. I go and watch his games, and it's not there no more. The game is changing. Them characters are long gone. You like to see your Roy Keanes and them types of players, who had the heart and passion and fight. Not always about football ability sometimes, but grafting and winning, being a winner sometimes is more than ability, and every team needs one of them to turn your team into a winning team.
Yeah, every team needs like a James Milner, for example.
They're still around. Now you look at Man City, and Rodri's probably that for them. Not in the same way, but he's got that heart, that passion, but he's obviously got great football ability and technical ability as well. But there's not every player that comes through now wants to be a winger or a number 10. No one's coming through wanting to be a centre half or a CDM. Do you know what I mean? No one's coming.
Yeah, I get you.
That's what's going to happen. It's going to, in 10, 15 years, football will be completely different.
I think people just sort of now are just ending up in those positions, aren't they? Like,
true,
there's no passion to go out and do
it. Smaller nations that probably become stronger because they will still have that passion because they've got nothing, so they have to work for it. Whereas we're in a generation over here now where everyone's got everything really. It's all on the plate, isn't it?
Really interesting insight. And I'll be again, viewers, a bit quiet in the comments there, guys. If you've got any views on that, please just jump in, or anything else we discussed, or whatever you fancy, jump in and talk to us, and we'll pop your comment up and we'll have a discussion. But look, to be fair, I could talk about that for a lot longer. But that was a really good insight there, Brett, to be fair, mate. But moving away from that, a subject that's doing the rounds. Obviously, we've got the National League playoffs coming up. And there's been a bit doing the rounds about the ticket allocation. Now, we're again, it's a difficult one. I'm interested to understand what you think about this. Now, there's scheduled maintenance work that's going to lead into Wembley Park Station, which is obviously the tube station directly outside Wembley Walk. You get down the steps onto Wembley Way and then straight there. That tube station is going to be closed on the day of the National League playoff final. Just give me a bit of logic on that, if you can.
Mental, isn't it? I've been there, cup finals and stuff, and it's bad enough when it's open. Never mind when it's closed.
Yeah. But
is it because he got extended? Not to do with the jersey.
It's scheduled. No, it's nothing to do with that. It's scheduled maintenance work on the tube, on the railway.
That sums up London, don't it, to be honest, mate?
Scheduled. So it's not like, oh my God, there's been an incident, we've got to put something right. This is scheduled, planned maintenance work. So obviously fans are being directed to the other two close ones, Wembley Central, and then there's another Wembley one, I do believe, which is just completely and utterly barbaric. I think originally the allocation was 17,500 to each club. When you consider that what Wembley's capacity is into the 90,000, isn't it? They're only going to be releasing that. Now, Southend is the one I've been following because we talked about Southend on last week's show and their journey from nearly going bust and obviously getting through to the final and what have you. And they've obviously been quite vocal and putting numbers out there that they think they can sell. So they got 17,500 originally. They sold 12,500 tickets on day one of the initial release. Yeah. So they went through that really, really quickly. Then the capacity was increased to 48,000 for total, and then the Southend got 22,500. Yeah. So they're touting around numbers. They reckon they could sell about 35,000.
Yeah.
Is what they were saying. But I've got the statement that the club put out here just to have a little look out to say what's been increased and everything. But just and I read obviously as well an article on it where obviously they're saying, look, there's no way that this would happen. You know, you've got that. I think somebody even said, you know, you have concerts taking place at Wembley these days. Wembley's a football stadium. You got Taylor Swift concert and these guys playing and whoever. Wembley Stadium is a football ground. So why are football events not taking precedence?
Yeah. They have all year to do it. They can do it. What do the cup finals in May every year, aren't they? So why don't they do it in June when nothing's going on as such?
Do you think that this would happen at a larger scale event or something that's considered more important? Do you think that'd happen?
No, it wouldn't, would it? Simple as that. They're just picking an easy target, aren't they? No doubt. Or what they think is an easy target anyway. Probably think, oh, it's small fry. Probably weren't expecting the crowd that you just said that they're going to be getting. But even so, it's down to poor research, isn't
it? Yeah, and that's a really good point, to be fair. They're obviously not. They're obviously not, and it's because we just had non-league finals day there as well. I was there for that one. Lucky enough to be there, and then that's obviously competed between step 5 and 6 clubs, as you know. And there was 38,000 there for that.
Yeah, mental, isn't it?
38,000 people, and you think
It makes
and
you
you
think,
think
what do they
40
expect?
and you think 48,000 for what's that? 4 steps above
Yeah.
is going to be sufficient, planned maintenance work or not. That is not sufficient. It's not fit for purpose, is it?
No, it ain't. It's a nightmare around there anyway, isn't it? Never mind now. It's going to push more people to drive it now, I would guess. And it's going to make it even more of a nightmare than it already is.
Yeah, that's it. So, you know, yeah, I wish I could. I really do wish that I could have some form of logic behind it. I really do. I think we are getting some comments in, but for some reason, they're not. I'm actually just jumped on my personal Facebook to have a little look. They're not syncing with the app for some reason. They're not popping up. So I'm just having a little look through without sort of doubling over. I don't want to hear myself through my mic on my phone, if that makes sense. So what have we got? Yes, we've Nick's been in there again about Sunderland. Oh yeah, your what's a Sunderland fan, ain't she? Fair play. So I said congratulations. A lot more successful than your boys, mate. And we've had James Ellis in the comments as well. Evening to you, James. Thanks for joining us, buddy. Ticket situation is a farce for the non-league final. Yeah, absolutely agree, mate. Can only buy a ticket with a coach now. Yeah, I've seen that as well. But that was a good initiative, wasn't it, though? Because I think that they managed to actually get a few more tickets in. They say, right, we're going to put coaches on, and they committed to X amount of coaches prior because they knew what they were going to sell. So then they've gone to Wembley after that to say, no, you need to release more, mate, because we've committed financially to these coaches. We've got the interest. Give us the tickets because we're going to sell them. So that's you could say that's a shrewd move. Really. And I'll try and come back into the comments on my phone and stuff if I can. But yeah, an absolute farce to sort of summarise on that one. Just another example of the authorities shitting on football fans. But hey ho. But look, we're moving into another farce, unfortunately, Brett. I'm sure you've been keeping tabs on it to an extent. The combined counties, playoffs, and the debacle involving Jersey Bulls and Red Hill and their points deduction. They'd won the league, then they hadn't. It's been decided that AFC Whiteleaf have won that league now. So congratulations to them. Their fans were phenomenal, by the way, on non-league finals day for the Vast final. They were brilliant. And I've been following Fleet Town's journey in all of this because they've done nothing wrong. They finished in 5th position. They qualified for the playoffs, no issues. But they've been made to suffer, as all the clubs involved have. Now, to give a bit of background on this for anybody that hasn't been following, Jersey Bulls reported an infringement at the start of March where they fielded an ineligible player. Something to do with yellow cards. He'd accumulated X amount of yellow cards, which meant he couldn't play. Now, they were honest, held their hands up, reported it to the league. The league made a decision to deduct points. There was an appeal. And all in all, it's taken the authority, the league, 5 weeks. 5 weeks, all those clubs didn't know what was going on. They weren't able to appoint a league champion. They weren't able to decide who was going to be in the playoffs. They weren't able to decide where the clubs were, when those games were going to take place. Absolutely nothing. Brett, you're chairman of a non-league club. Put yourself in that position. What does that do to you, man?
Yeah, well, it's a nightmare, isn't it? You can't plan anything. Wrong. How can it take 5 weeks? In such like a big decision as well for those clubs. And I know it's not Premier League money or whatever, but it's still a lot of money that these teams will be chucking into it at that level. Do you know what I mean? And it's like all in the uncertainty and the unknown. And like you say, how bad must Flint be feeling if they're the ones that were in the playoffs and then now they were out?
Yeah, because they obviously travelled over to Jersey, got beat, unfortunately, on penalties. They had 3 days to prepare that, all the travel, the players. I think I read that 5 first-team players weren't able to go at all because they're pre-committed holidays. Because everything was supposed to be wrapped up weeks before that.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
They have pre-booked holidays, and they're not millionaires. They're not Premier League footballers. They've all got families. They've all got commitments. And when you commit to something like that financially, these players can't afford to take the hit. A lot of these things are non-refundable, especially so close to the time. So not only that, they had to arrange the travel. It was a bank holiday weekend. And I looked, if you were a fan wanting to go to that game, travel, everything included, that would have cost you 900 quid,
Fucking hell.
Crazy, flights,
isn't
isn't it?
Yeah.
Flights, you got to fly. It's Jersey.
Yeah. Fucking hell.
Jesus. The club had to obviously run for an extra month into the season. So that's eating into next season's budget for a start.
Yeah.
They weren't able to go into the market to sign players because they couldn't give anybody any assurances because they didn't know which step they were going to be playing at. So they've not been able to sign anybody. All the clubs that are going to be there in the league with them now, they're all preparing for next season.
Yeah,
There's
that's
no
it.
delayed. There's no delayed start to next season. The league haven't announced anything. Okay, well look, we'll delay the start to give you the time.
No,
None of that. But even if they did, that will cause uproar of all of the other clubs.
yeah.
So either way you look at it, somebody's always losing.
Yeah, it's a farce, isn't it? On every level. How
Somebody's
can they justify 5 weeks? That's what makes you laugh, don't it?
surely you just get around a table, put the facts in front of you, have a committee,
Exactly.
make a decision, bang.
How can they justify 5 weeks? What's taken 5 weeks? You know what I mean? It's baffling.
Christ knows. I don't know how privy you are to what goes on. I'm sure you've had decisions go against your club. I'm sure you've had infringements in the past. In your experience, how quickly has that been communicated, like a final decision to you where you've fallen foul of regulations?
Not very quick, mate, to be honest. We got promoted step 5, what would have been 9 years ago, I think it was now. And we was told that we needed an outdoor toilet block. And we was told, we built it, and we was told, no, we can't go up. So we appealed it because we won the league. And then it went until last minute, but I think it was probably mid-June. We turned around and we appeal, you've won the appeal, you can go up now. But we had that limbo for like a month. What are we up, are we not up? Do you know what I mean? And then we got put in the Midland Premier League when we should have been in the UCL, which was like another. So we were playing teams further than we would have expected. It just had a big, massive effect on everything. So then you sort of get punished for doing well. But nothing.
Yeah, so you victim of your own success almost.
And nothing gets communicated quick. Nothing. You know what I mean?
Well, we're seeing that firsthand now, aren't we?
Yeah, it's a farce. It is a farce.
Yeah, it is, and obviously, Transport for London have been. Sorry, I was just going to comment. Somebody saying in there, about the maintenance work. They would have known ages before on that as well. So that's two complete farces by two key decision makers in the game. That and who is it that suffers? It's the clubs that suffer, And back to sort of talking about Fleet Town. I was saying about their budget. It eats into next season's budget as well. So do we think now that they're going to be competitive next season? What does that do for their competitiveness next season?
Yeah, it makes it harder for them, doesn't it? Definitely.
Don't get me wrong. I always, whenever we have a bit of a gripe and we put our points across, I always say I'm extremely proud of the non-league football system in this country. There's nothing like it anywhere across the world. And all systems and pyramids have their flaws. I accept that. But what I can't accept is time and time again, we're seeing clear, concrete examples of just poor decision making, poor attention to what's going on around you. Fans come in last.
Yeah, it's mad.
I think I'll have to move away from it. But look, we do have to say congratulations to Jersey Bulls, despite all the goings on and all the questions and everything. They managed to get promoted. They beat Cobham 2-1 last night. So a huge congratulations has to go out to them. And look, and whilst we're having a moan and a dig, that is in no way aimed at any of the clubs involved in this. Certainly not Jersey Bulls. They made an error. They were honest. They put it out there. And it almost discourages you to be honest in a way, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does, don't it? Don't get you anywhere.
No. Yeah. It really, really doesn't. But look, congratulations to them. They're going to be playing a step higher next season. They deserve it. They deserve it on the balance of things 100%. So they've gone and won those 2 games in a short space of time. So take nothing away from them. They're going into a higher tier next season, and best of luck to them. I'm going to finish off by just coming into a bit of a bonus topic here, just something that and I will admit I wasn't actually fully across this. But Dumbarton FC, based up in obviously in Scotland, of course, they entered into administration in November 2024, so November last year. Reasons for that were cited, obviously financial struggles due to money owed from the sale of a piece of land, whatever. There was suspected fraud, there was investigations around the club and the people involved and all the rest of it. But this is how important fans are to football. So the club and the fans got together and they started a GoFundMe page. Their initial target was 50k, just to cover some running costs. And they ended up raising, listen to this, £122,799 by February. So November to February, 122k.
Mental, isn't it? Fair play.
But just your thoughts on that, mate. How amazing is that?
Massive, that, isn't it? Because it's not a particularly big area in terms of population, is it? So to raise that amount for any club, it's unreal.
And the key question here now, because you associate administration, of course, with a lot of the time poor decision making behind the scenes. Not all the time, but you look at your higher clubs that have nearly gone out. I think Leeds nearly went out, Derby nearly went out. You know, clubs that have had big money over the years, and Portsmouth years ago in administration, big club. And whilst I'm not pointing the finger and having a dig at those clubs, what I am saying is, you know, there's more opportunity for poor decisions to be made there. You drop down and you look at your Dumbartons of this world, and every penny counts more because they have less, right?
Yeah.
So associated with administration is points deductions. They were deducted 15 points, you know.
Wow.
For going into administration. And bearing in mind, that's the third, I'm sure they were League One, and they've just dropped into the fourth tier, League Two, because obviously they were relegated.
Yeah.
What's the need in that? Taking
15.
points off of an already kicking people. It's like kicking a dog when it's down, isn't it?
Yeah, that's just relegated a minute, basically.
Yeah, they were actually relegated by 14 points, I think. So they would have stayed up by a point.
Fucking hell, that's even worse, isn't it?
Yeah. Or the other way around, they were relegated by 16 points, so they would have only been 1 point. Something I can't remember specific, but they've gone down. They've gone down from Scottish League One into League Two. And when I was looking at the attendances as well, the attendance. I think their average attendance was like 400 and something, or it might have been 600, 400, 600, something like that. But in the mid hundreds, yeah. And that's the third tier. We were just talking about in the English game there, third tier, Wembley, Charlton, and Leyton Orient, 70,000.
Yeah.
So that makes the money that they raised all the more impressive.
Mental,
doesn't it?
So yeah, 100%.
How crazy is that? But look, there's a bit more to this as well. I want to know from your perspective, what do you think the authorities could do differently? Because they've taken points away. What support can they give them? Why can't you help? Why are you penalising?
Yeah, because they know about it before, don't they? What's going on? It's a hard one, isn't it? Without knowing, I don't know if Scotland's similar to what sort of English clubs have.
No, but hypothetically, overall, is what I'm asking.
Yeah, they have better systems in place. You know what I mean? To make it more transparent, I suppose. I don't. It's a tricky one. It's a difficult one, isn't it? There's got to be some sort of punishment, I suppose, for people that take the piss, because you're always going to get someone, aren't you? And teams have done it in the past, like you said, where they just spend, and then just gamble, and then all of a sudden.
Only if you can prove it, though, right? I get punishment. Punishment's punishment, but you're only punishable where there is proof.
Yeah, too right.
You can't be penalised if you can't evidence any wrongdoing. Which, as far as I know, there was never any evidence of any wrongdoing at Dumbarton.
Like you said, there's got to be some wrongdoing. It's just a set of rules, isn't it? Surely guidelines, but again, there probably isn't.
Yeah, very, very strange. But look, they had a takeover in place in last month. I think in April this year, last month, yeah. And they had a takeover plan that unfortunately fell through for one reason or another. I think the consortium, or the gentleman that was due to take over, unfortunately, ill health was the reasoning behind that. But they've now got a deal on the table, which has been provisionally agreed by the administrators, and the club are officially due to come out of administration. So they can now start looking forward. And I don't know if I should have got a picture of it, really. If anybody watching it doesn't know anything about Dumbarton, I knew very little about them before investigating this. Just go and have a look at their ground. Got to be one of the most picturesque grounds in the country. It's absolutely beautiful, man. The backdrop. It's right on. I think they're just outside Glasgow, but they're closer, sort of going towards like Stranraer and Cairn Ryan. So they've got obviously that like port bit behind them, and it's just it's beautiful, man. Like mountains in the background, water. It's lovely, honestly. Anybody that's watching, go and have a look at that, because it's really, really nice. So they had a failed takeover. They've now had a takeover in place. Canadian businessman Mario Lapointe. I don't know anything about him individually. He's got a passion for football by all accounts. But there's already some initiatives that he's personally put in place. They've frozen season tickets from what I've seen. And there was another good one that I saw as well. Anybody signing up for young fans that can't afford to go to a game. Older fans, obviously, that do have the financial ability, have an option to sort of sign up for something, put money in, and then that money goes into a kitty for people that can't afford to go.
Okay.
So they can push it out to fans that can't afford to go to, especially like away games and stuff like that. just so they can keep everything completely like inclusive. I think it's called the Pass It On campaign or something like that.
Oh, okay.
But just how good of an initiative is that?
Yeah, class.
Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. But look, I'm really pleased for their fans and everybody involved with the club, because they can start to plan for next season now. So yeah, really pleased, really pleased for them. But look, we're gonna just bring this to a close now, Brett. I'm gonna have a little look in the comments, see if there's anybody else there. Again, I'm having to sort of go on my phone to look. Nick's been on again. Nick Paul, oi oi, my Crawley a tin pot and proud. Enough of the digs. Yeah, no worries. I'll leave you alone for another season. Well, like I say, we're not going to be seeing you next season anyway. But look, that was another dig there, really, weren't it? My apologies. That's my last one, I promise. But look, Brett, thank you very much for joining me, mate. Real pleasure to have you on, buddy. As always, really good insight provided from you, and thanks to everybody watching along at home. And just a bit of an update for the followers. We're probably going to take a little bit of a break now from the podcast, just to let the dust settle on what's been a fantastic season. There might be something to do with reviews, but we do have a couple of initiatives to keep everybody engaged and watching it along, and sort of keeping an eye on the page, which we'll release details of soon. But to everybody that's watched along this season and watched along to tonight's show, thank you very much from everybody at Proper Football. Your input has been invaluable. And just like football as a whole, our page is nothing without fans, without followers. So yeah, thank you everybody for your input, and yeah, wish everybody the best. Whatever you do this week and for the next few weeks, enjoy. There's not going to be any football, I'm afraid, but whatever you find as an alternative, enjoy. And massive shout out to everybody at Leicester St Andrews as well. Good luck. We'll probably catch up before then, Brett, to be fair. But
yeah,
if we don't, mate, good luck, and thank you very much for joining us.
No worries, pal.
Nice one, mate. I'm channeling my inner Gary here now. Not ready with the titles. Look at that.